Ruth Runner and Clinton Eastwood Sr. Struggling with Depression-era hardship, his dad would teach Clint the value of hard work and discipline. Still, Clint and his sister Jean grew up in a warm, emotionally secure atmosphere. The Eastwoods all loved the outdoors, and Clint was introduced early to some of the tools of his eventual trade. He could strike a bold pose, but he was a shy and often solitary kid. When Clint was a teenager, the Eastwoods settled near Oakland, where Clint went to high school. He did not love it. What he did love was jazz, hearing it and playing it.
I always admired musicians because they could channel their emotions into the instrument they were playing, whether it was the piano or a horn. I remember being very impressed by Charlie Parker and Lester Young and those guys when I was a kid, because they always seemed to be emotionless on stage until they started playing, and then a lot of things really happened. Acting, on the other hand, I just assumed that you had to be some sort of a clown or an extrovert to be able to do that. So I never thought about pursuing a profession like that. In fact, after high school, I think I was kind of adrift. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Well, I knew what I didn't want to do.
That was going to the Army, where he spent 2 years as a swimming instructor at Fort Ord on the Monterey Peninsula. His abiding love for the area, where he's lived most of his adult life, dates from these days. While he was in the service, he met Maggie Johnson. They would soon marry. And he would find an interesting new job in the talent program at Universal Studios. At first, he says, he had no burning ambition to act, but it was a challenge. Occasionally, it was fun, and it paid $100 a week. Sometimes you got to sit at the feet of masters like Marlon Brando. Sometimes you just learned to sit a horse, but Clint was also coming to love the work and to aspire, even then, to direct. The talent students posed for many a silly still. Occasionally, they even got to appear in pictures that moved.
Didn't you say that among the lower animals there were no natural enemies as long as they were well fed?
Yeah, something like that.
Well, maybe so, Doc, but there were 4 rats in there when I changed my lights. Now there's only 3. It's my considered opinion that rat number 4 is sitting inside that cat.
Are you sure you fed them all this morning?
Sure, I always feed them.
Revenge of the Creature was Clint's first screen appearance.
How'd he get in here?
He appeared briefly in 6 other Universal pictures. Then his contract was dropped. At first, he did well enough, working on TV shows like Highway Patrol.
All we did is stop at that cafe for breakfast.
The next thing we knew, that little guy was kicking us out, calling us bums, and shoving a gun into my stomach.
What gun?
He had a shotgun.
When a guy pokes a gun in your stomach, you get sore. That's when they took it away from him and slapped him. Why, sir, I'll bet you would have done the same thing.
But then, for a year, he logged far more pool time than screen time. He kept fit, as he still does, by working out. He went faithfully to auditions and acting classes. But he didn't always feel as frolicsome as he pretended to be. He credits Maggie with solid emotional support. His role as a hot young gun on Maverick was one of his best early appearances.
Anytime you're ready, Doc.
He made a believer of Brett Maverick. Soon there would be millions more, many of them teenage girls. For strolling a corridor at CBS, he was spotted by an executive and offered a running role on a new series. For 7 seasons, he would play Rowdy Yates, idiot of the plains, as Clint sometimes called him, on Rawhide. He was the good-natured innocent, always getting into scrapes, always getting rescued, and patronized by Eric Fleming's trail boss.
What have the 3 of you done now?
All I was trying to do was get the water, took my girl away from me.
Now, wait just a minute, Sheriff. If you think you're going to take over this herd, just because you say we're disturbing the peace.
From doing years at a Rawhide, I found that I had the job. I was going to be there next week. And if this episode didn't work out, I was going to be in the next episode. So I could experiment and do some crazy thing in that particular episode. And if it looked lousy, I could say, well, I won't do that again.
Over the years, he and Rowdy matured, but the show, in Clint's opinion, did not. He was willing to try anything to break out of the rut. Well, almost anything.
An Italian Western? I don't think so. The script wasn't even typed up in regular script form. But my agent asked me if I would read it as a favor to the Rome office. And upon reading it, I recognized it was Yojimbo, a picture I had seen some years before. Toshiro Mifune starred in it. Akira Kurosawa directed it. He was one of my favorite directors. And I thought, what the heck, if this thing doesn't do any business, I still get a free trip through Europe.
With success, Leone's visions and budgets expanded. Clint approved of that.
He saw films in a very big way. I think he idolized David Lean or somebody like that. But he liked that big scope. And I liked it, I must say, especially coming from television where you didn't have the opportunity to do that.
He also liked the more compassionate note he was allowed to strike in their third collaboration.
Never seen so many men wasted so badly.
But he also felt he had taken this character as far as he could. As he ministered to a dying soldier in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, he knew he was working with Leone for the last time. It was time to take his new stardom back home and see how it played in the American industry. A bright new star rises when Eastwood on Eastwood returns. We now return to Eastwood on Eastwood. The studios at first saw Clint as a killing machine. Where Eagles Dare was big budget, big body count filmmaking. Like his other late 60s action films, it was a hit, but they dissatisfied him. He was looking for leaner, sharper work. Then a Universal Studio executive introduced him to Don Siegel. 18 years older than Clint, the director would become his most influential filmmaking mentor. Coogan's Bluff was the first of their 5 collaborations. It was an important transition for Clint because it brought his Westerner off the range, out of the past and into the big modern city.
That's $2.95 including the luggage.
Tell me, how many stores are there named Bloomingdale's in this town?
One, why?
We passed it twice.
It's still $2.95 including the luggage.
Yeah. Well, there's $3, including the tip.
Don was such an efficient director that he was unfairly relegated to doing B movies instead of doing A movies, which he deserved to be doing. Sometimes he'd print a take on the first time and wouldn't do 10 or 20 like a lot of directors who were insecure. And I learned a lot from that. I thought this efficiency was very important aspect to carry with you. When he got the opportunity to do Beguiled, he reveled in it. It was everything he'd never been able to do in the past.
It's the oddest item in either of their filmographies. Clint's a wounded Northern soldier given refuge in a girls' school when he's trapped behind rebel lines in the Civil War.
Corporal John McBurney, 66, New York. I surrender.
One of the students offers herself to him. A teacher also throws off her repression and yields to his charm. Even Miss Farnsworth, the stern headmistress, succumbs to him. One night, he makes a final choice between the women.
No.
Miss Farnsworth will exact a terrible price for his transgressions. A grisly, needless amputation. This was Southern Gothic, not a realm where his audience is expected to find a take-charge action star. There were more shocks to come.
You girls know why Miss Dabney there knocked me down the stairs? That's because I went to Carol's room instead of hers. And do you know how I got out of my room in the first place? That's because this fine lady, Miss Farnsworth, unlocked my door so I could go to her room. And you know why Miss Farnsworth chopped off my leg and left me a cripple? So I could stay on here and be at her beck and call. You beast! That's right, but I don't run a school for young girls. And I just thought these girls might like to know what kind of woman runs this place.